Hi, English 3360 peeps. I just got done reading your entries about good and bad experiences you've had as an English teacher. Um, there were a lot of both kinds. I think it was Alyssa who talked about how she always loved to read and write, but she didn't have that experience much in English. It's very similar to my own experience. I always grew up loving to read and write, but I was like, what does loving to read and write have to do with English? I think really what it had to do with was the way English was taught. Um, some of you all said things like the really good teachers let you choose your own topics, they encouraged you, they let you relate what you wrote to your own life. Those of you who said you had less positive experiences, a lot of people focused on either really negative feedback, getting really low grades, sometimes with cruel comments involved, and other people focused on trying really hard and getting poor grades and not knowing why. Never having explained. And several people commented that nobody ever really taught us how to write. They just said, you got to do well on the STAR. And I think another common thread running through is that standardized testing has really negatively affected learning. And I agree with that 100%. Remember, this class is based on the best practices in writing pedagogy. I'm not going to go through all these as well, but these are what has been proven to work as well. And so some just basics. Remember, the best writing teachers write themselves. It doesn't mean you have to be appealing and surprised, but you got to continually be engaged in what you're doing and what your students are doing. Think about it. Could you teach piano if you didn't know how to play the piano? You would have to show us here's how you play the scale. Here's how you play that note as well. You learn to write by practicing. You got to write. You got to write every day. And again, emphasis on low stakes writing. You got to write a lot. Not all things get published. Not all things are graded. Not all things get taken from beginning of idea all the way through major writings as well. Mistakes are steps in the learning process. And again, don't want to go through the whole things as well, but really pay attention to these. And I think you'll identify reasons for the good experiences you had and maybe reasons for the negative experiences you had as well. The last thing I want to mention, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but if you teach your students how to write, I don't want to say don't worry about the test, but the things that they test in the STAR, it doesn't really have a lot to do with good writing. So if you teach your students how to write well, except for a couple of students who will struggle for whatever reasons, and I'm not dismissing that, most of your students will do very well if you teach your students how to write. And this sounds bad, but the standards for the STAR are relatively low. So if you teach your students how to write, have them write every day, how to have confidence with their writing, how to take chances, how to write for real people with real audiences, they're going to be writing at this level. And remember, the level for the STAR is this level. So most of your students are going to sail over that level of the STAR without ever realizing they had to jump a hurdle. Doesn't mean you don't give them a little bit of practice. Hey, we got this exam coming up. These are some strategies to use when you take an exam, and they're helpful to use because you got to take a lot of exams in school as well. But don't let that be the focus of how you teach. Teach your students how to write well, and they will learn to love writing. They will do a good job, and a byproduct of that is they'll do well on the standardized tests. But really dig into these best practices. They are really the best practices that we know. They come from the National Writing Project. And I think you'll find that they align well, but in different ways, both with the national standards and the Texas standards. One other thing, the Texas standards themselves for writing are pretty good. And if you really dig into those, as you look at those standards, they talk about learning, reading, trying different kinds of writing, the writing process, multiple drafts, things like that. The standards Texas has are good. The way we test them is not. That's all I'm going to say about that. Look forward to seeing more of your writing. Thanks a lot, and you take care of yourself. And I'm going to stop recording. And